If you're considering buying a second-hand smartphone, which is a used phone, maybe you are really tempted by that sweet deal on a used iPhone on Facebook Marketplace, Gigi, or Craigslist. Hold up. Before you hand over your hard-earned cash, let's make sure you are not getting scammed. In this video, I'll show you 5 crucial checks plus a bonus check that would save you from a smartphone nightmare. And so without taking much of your time, yo guys, let's get started. Without being told, the first thing you should check out for is whether the smartphone comes on. This may seem obvious, but some sellers might attempt to sell you a smartphone that won't turn on by claiming the battery is dead. And for some naive and ever-trusting persons, they might just believe in the seller, considering they had seen an earlier video with the device turned on. Don't do that. Also, carry with you a power bank if possible, to verify that the smartphone charges normally, and this can be especially useful when buying from places like Facebook Marketplace and you're getting out in a public place to get this device exchanged for money. Now, if you're buying from a second-hand store, this might not pose that big of a problem because you can easily return these smartphones. Make sure you go with your charger and also make sure you confirm this device turns on. And that brings me to the second point, which is checking for physical and visible damages. Now, this is the beauty contest phase, or where you have to judge a book by its cover. Most used smartphones will have scratches, and that's even if they are always kept in a case and have these good screen protectors. And you shouldn't be discouraged when you see some scratches on a used smartphone. If the phone is brought to you in a case, remove it to get a better look and carefully check the phone for any visible damage. A few scratches, no biggie. We're not looking for perfection here. But if it looks like it's been through a blender, you should have to reconsider. You might even want to check out if the smartphone sits flat on a surface face down. This way, you would be able to see if the chassis is bent. Remember, a bent chassis might mean a bad battery too. Also, inspect the cameras to see if the lenses are damaged or scratched. Go on the camera app and inspect further. You can snap a few pictures, and if they are blurrier than your vision without glasses, that's a no-go, especially if that's not what the phone's camera should look like. You also need to test connectivity, things like the Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and GPS. A smartphone without these in today's world is like a car without wheels, and you shouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. Now, the buttons too, you need to press all the buttons to confirm none is stuck or not working. Check the volume, the power, the fingerprint scanner, that's the biometrics, and the touch ID. Check also the speakers and microphones are working properly on the phone. You can do a few simple tests. First, use the phone's recording app to record something and then play it back. Do you hear a crackling speaker sound, or is it clean? The next thing you have to do is check the earpiece volume by making a call. If you don't have a SIM card, you can use FaceTime, Telegram, WhatsApp over public Wi-Fi or your hotspot to make the call. The earpiece must work well so you can hear the other person clearly, and if there are issues with, say, the speaker or the earpiece, they might sound a little bit faint, which is something to consider before purchasing this used smartphone. Note that after your physical inspection, a phone in good condition with a screen protector and maybe a tough case from the start will be worth more than a scratched up one. Use this information to decide if the seller is asking for a fair price or not. Now, the third thing here will be activation, service provider locks, and blocks. After a physical inspection, you might see a lock screen when you boot up this device asking the owner to enter a passcode. If the seller is unable to provide a password to activate the smartphone, like iPhones, the phone might be stolen, and even if it's not stolen, you can't use a locked device. Now, to check for activation lock, insist that the seller activates the phone by entering their password. By the way, activation locks on iPhones can be removed by turning off Find My iPhone on that device. And for Android devices, you can easily factory reset the Android phone. In fact, here are other things about buying a locked phone. If a smartphone is stolen, it's very likely they have reported it to the authorities, and in some countries, the smartphone can be blocked from being used in that country or carriers around that country. It's always good to check for the block status of these devices, and to do that, you can get the IMEI number of the smartphone, which can be gotten by dialing *#06# on that device. With this ID, you can put it into any of these websites I will link in the description box below to see more information on the block status of your second-hand phone. This is important so you don't buy a used phone you can't use with any network. Also, make sure you do not buy a locked smartphone, which is a device locked to a particular network. You won't be able to switch from that network carrier to another network. Another thing I've noticed, especially from reading forums like Nairaland, is that some people buy phones on credit and resell them before the loan time is up. And when it gets to the payment time, the loan company would block you which is the buyer, out of this smartphone. I've read stories on them being able to block you from using your gallery, the Play Store, or even making calls on this smartphone until you clear up the phone loan. You should make sure to find out if it isn't a loan smartphone that's being sold to you. Now that brings me to the fourth point, which is the battery life on that device. Just like how a car's engine wears out over time, the battery in your smartphone, whether it's an iPhone or any other model of device, also loses capacity as it gets older. When you're buying a used phone, checking the battery's health is important for making sure it lasts. To see how your phone's battery is holding up, go into your settings and then the battery and check out the health percentage. If it's above 90%, then you've struck gold. Way below that, well, you might be best friends with your charger soon. Batteries have this relationship with the smartphone's performance, and you need to pay attention to this because as batteries age, they might not be able to deliver power as efficiently to the processor when the need arises, and this can slow down your perceived performance on that device. And for performance, you can run a few tests like browsing a responsive website on the new smartphone you're about to purchase, that's the used one, launching and running a few apps, you can swipe between applications and all that. You'd notice if this device is slow or some weird quirk if something is up with this device. Now the fifth point here will be check if the smartphone has replaced or refurbished parts. When you're eyeing a used phone, it's important to know if any of the parts have been swapped out or if the phone has been refurbished. To see if your iPhone has been refurbished, go into the settings, general and about, and look at the model number. If it starts with an F, then it's been refurbished by Apple or a carrier. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's good to be aware. If the seller says they've recently replaced the battery or other parts of this device, you can check the phone's history. Again, go into your settings and general about, I'm talking about iPhones here, and take a look at the model number and see if these parts are listed as genuine parts. And that means Apple replaced them, which is usually better quality than third-party parts. It's tricky to know if a smartphone, especially iPhones, has been refurbished by a third party other than Apple, so be cautious about this. I'll have a link in the description to help you explain and understand this same concept for Android devices and other smartphones in general. And that brings me to the bonus round or the bonus point. The time you purchase a smartphone can determine if you save some few bucks on that smartphone. For instance, trying to get the last generation of an iPhone is best done sometime after September because the newer generation have been announced and the prices for the last generation usually would take a nosedive. And when it comes to Pixel devices, sometime after October is the best time to buy these smartphones. Moving over to Samsung devices, I would advise you buy the last generation Samsung devices when the newer ones have been announced, and that's sometime after February because Samsung devices, the flagship devices, tend to lose a lot of value after the newer generation smartphones have been announced. And there you have it, my 5 points plus the bonus point to buying used phones or second-hand devices. Do you have any crazy story on buying used smartphones? Let me know in the comment section below, and also do not forget to like, subscribe to this channel if you're new here. By the way, I think you'd like this video on why spending $1,000 on a smartphone might just be a huge mistake. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Catch you guys in the next one. Koi that day.